So as promised, the post-Star Wars Celebration coverage continues, and in this video, we're going to be talking more about the new villains from the Ahsoka trailer, and some interesting information that Dave Filoni revealed about these characters and their purpose and their alignment in the Force, and it's not as simple as we first thought. So of course, we saw these new villains and they look really cool, and their most distinguishing feature is that they're wielding orange lightsabers. Now, orange lightsabers I think are really cool. I think they're an underrated, underused color of lightsaber, and I'm glad to see them in this movie, and I like the look of them. Dave Filoni said that he was inspired by original artwork from the original trilogy era that showed Darth Vader with a lightsaber that looked more orange than red. And yeah, I like it. I like that was the inspiration. I think that these sabers give off a very retro vibe. I think the entire look of this series, the entire look of the trailer feels very retro in a way. And I think that's pretty cool. So I do like the color. I do like the decision to go with this. But of course, there was a lot of speculation. Was this red? Was this orange? It was a little bit difficult to tell from the trailer, but no, it's actually orange. It is confirmed to be orange lightsabers. And that brings up the question of these characters' alignment in the Force, because in canon, lightsaber crystals work differently than what they did in Legends. In Legends, Jedi got their crystals from, planets like Ilum, and, the color was already predetermined. The crystals were just naturally, blue or green or purple or orange or whatever. And then the Sith crystals, the red crystals, were actually synthetic. They were artificially created. Now in canon, they changed that to where, a crystal starts out, as a blank slate, and then a Jedi kind of imprints themselves onto the crystal, and depending on their alignment in the Force, the crystal changes color to represent that alignment, at least the alignment that Jedi had at that particular time. So, obviously someone like Anakin or Obi-Wan, it's blue. For these characters, it's orange. Ahsoka was able to turn red crystals into her white crystals, her white lightsabers that she has now. And in fact, red lightsabers, Sith lightsabers, are the result of bleeding a crystal, a kyber crystal, which is what is used to produce the blade of a lightsaber. So, Sith are able to bleed the crystals and they bleed red. So, the fact that these characters have orange lightsabers and not red means that they're not quite dark side. And I kind of have an interesting theory on this, so I want to hear what you guys think about this. And it kind of ties into something from the Legends material, which may be getting reincorporated into the canon, which is what we should have been doing all along. All right, so my whole thought on this situation regarding these two characters, and by the way, their names have been confirmed. The male is Baylan Skoll, and the female is Shin Hati. Now, if those names sound familiar to you, it's because they're actually taken from North mythology, that being Skoll and Hati. It's not Haiti, it's Hati. Haiti is a country. So Skoll and Hati are actually wolves from the Norse mythology. They're wolves. Skoll, Hati, and Fenrir. I wonder if somebody with the last name Fenrir is going to show up. That could potentially happen. I'm not really sure what the connection is to Norse mythology exactly, but the fact that these are named after wolves from Norse mythology has people speculating that these characters, or have people calling these characters the Wolves. Maybe that's the name of the group, the Wolves of Thrawn, because it has been confirmed that they are working with Thrawn, and that ties into my theory surrounding these characters. So I'm just going to go ahead and start out with this premise. I think that these two, I don't think they're Sith. I don't think they're aligned with Palpatine. I don't think they're part of whatever's going on Exegol at the time. I think these two are actually gray Jedi. Yeah, I don't think they're Sith. I think they're gray Jedi. I think they use the light side and the dark side of the Force. And I think they're actually inspired from a group of gray Jedi that were in Legends known as the Imperial Knights. Now, who were the Imperial Knights? Well, the Imperial Knights were a gray Jedi order that existed 100 years after the fall of the Empire. And they actually served a new empire that existed 100 years later, which claimed to be the successor to the Galactic Empire of Palpatine. And this empire was known as the Fel Empire. It was the culmination of what was left of the Imperial remnants 100 years later, and the Imperial Knights were gray Jedi that served the Emperor of the Fel Empire. They rejected the dark side, but they embraced imperialism. And I think that's what's going on here. I think that Thrawn is working, because I don't think Thrawn is actually aware of all the stuff going on Exegol. I don't think he's a part of that necessarily. If he was, I think he would be shown, in contact with Palpatine. I think he's trying to do his own thing. I think he's trying to go his own way. And so I think that these gray Jedi, Baylan and Shin, I think are actually serving Thrawn, and I think they want to instate him as Emperor of the Galaxy. I believe that following Order 66 and the fall of the Jedi and the fall of the Republic, I believe that these two characters, Baylan and Shin, saw the failures of the Republic, saw the failures of the Jedi, and how easily they fell and how they were corrupted. And I think they came to believe that, trying to rebuild the Jedi Order, trying to rebuild the New Republic, that, it was just repeating the mistakes of the past. And so they've decided, okay, the Empire is the way to go. Imperialism is the way to go. So we're going to help rebuild the Empire. We want Thrawn to be the Emperor, but we reject the dark side. We just don't want it to be run by the Sith. We're not Sith. We reject the Sith, but we embrace the Empire. I think that's what this is. I think that this is less so a Sith versus Jedi conflict, and it's more so a democracy versus imperialism, the New Republic versus the rise of Thrawn's empire. And I think that's what we're getting here with these characters. I think they reject the dark side, they reject Palpatine, they reject the Sith, but they embrace imperialism, and they believe that an empire, they honestly believe that an empire is what is best for the galaxy. Now, also in Legends, the Imperial Knights were, they believe that, imperialism, that authoritarianism, that the Empire was actually the will of the Force. And they didn't really meditate on the Force all that much, to be honest with you. They didn't really, they weren't, deep meditative, Jedi like Yoda, for example, or Qui-Gon. They were more about action. They were more about, moving. They weren't like go with the flow of the Force. You know what I mean? They were like, no, the Force is a tool that we use to bring order and stability to the galaxy. And I like this approach. I think it's a very nuanced approach. If you don't want to go with Sith, I think this is a very good way to go with things. And I was kind of hoping this is what we would have gotten in the sequels. This is the direction I wish they would have taken Kylo Ren. If Palpatine had died on the Death Star, if they didn't bring him back, if it, still wasn't Jedi versus Sith, I would have wanted them to have a situation where, Kylo and the Knights of Ren are actually this gray Jedi Order, and they're trying to rebuild the Empire, but they reject the Sith. And, they believe that the Jedi and the Republic are failures and they don't need to come back, and trying to bring them back is just repeating the mistakes of the past. So let's build this new order of Force wielders. Let's build this new political order that is neither Sith or Jedi, that is neither, a Sith-ruled empire or a Jedi-protected republic. Let's build something new. I wanted Kylo Ren to go into that direction. I think that would have been the smart thing to do. Deciding, okay, what is the future of Force orders in the galaxy? What is the future of the political order in the galaxy? Where are we going with this? And, Luke and Kylo just had this disagreement. So Kylo went and teamed up with the Imperial remnants to try and create his new empire that wasn't a dark side empire or a Sith empire. It would have been its own thing. And Luke was trying to stop him. I think that would have been... That's where I would have gone with the sequel trilogy if I was writing it from scratch. That's where I would have gone with it. And, Snoke would have been some kind of gray Jedi master that, influenced Kylo or whatever. But I like this approach. I think this is a very cool idea. I think this is a very cool concept. And it's this is something I wanted to see, because something that we didn't see in the sequels that I wish we had saw is that no one called out the fact of, how flawed the Republic were, or how flawed that the Jedi were. There was well, Luke did call out how flawed the Jedi were, but nobody called out how flawed the Republic were. There was no criticism of democracy, because what you got to realize here is, guys, when you look at the Republic and how it fell and how it became the Empire and how the Sith got power, you have to understand the Republic was starting to collapse before the Sith began to influence things. Darth Bane's lineage began 1,000 years ago, but even then, there were cracks showing up in the Republic. The Republic was becoming more corrupt. The Republic was becoming, more decadent. The Republic was just losing its way. It didn't care about its citizens. It only cared about the core worlds. We saw that in episode 1. There was slavery on Tatooine. The Republic was it was already collapsing under its own weight. And the Sith, what they really did is they came in and they just made those cracks bigger. They exploited the weaknesses of the Republic. They accelerated its collapse. I believe the Republic was always going to collapse. I just think the Sith accelerated it. Maybe the Republic had another, 100 years or something left if the Sith hadn't done anything. If the Sith weren't in the equation, maybe the Republic had another 100 years left, but it was always going to collapse because it was corrupt in and of itself. And I wish they would have called that out in the sequel trilogy. I think Kylo would have been the perfect character to call that out, like, the Republic, democracy is very corruptible, and let's have a debate about that. Let's have a debate about that in these films. I would have loved to have seen that. And I think that's what we're going to get here. And I think these two are probably going to be what I was hoping Kylo Ren was going to be. And, there is, I think Joe Biden even said so himself, there is a question as we move forward, what's going to win out, authoritarianism or democracy? And in many ways, authoritarianism is more efficient. You get things done faster. Democracy is very messy and very corruptible, and there's a debate about that, and I wish this is something the sequels have got into, but I think I'm going to get that debate, what I've wanted to see in the Ahsoka series, and I think these two characters are going to be the vessels to ignite that debate. So I think that's very cool. But yeah, I think these two are gray Jedi. I think they are Imperial Knights, or the canon version of the Imperial Knights that are going to be serving under Thrawn, trying to instate him as Emperor of the Galaxy and build a new empire that's not controlled by the Sith, but is controlled by, Thrawn and by the Grey Jedi. I think that's what this is going to be. That's my theory. And I think their lightsabers represent that, because, you look at Mace Windu, for example. Mace Windu had a purple lightsaber, purple being between red and blue. So the purple lightsaber Mace Windu represented his, he had this darkness inside of him. He wasn't a dark side user, but he had a darkness inside of him. There's a whole bunch of novels that go into that. Very interesting stuff. But he was kind of teetering on that edge between light and dark. Mace Windu was. And his lightsaber color reflected that. I think that the orange lightsabers in canon may end up being kind of the inverse, kind of the other side of the coin to Mace Windu's purple lightsaber. I think the orange lightsabers may represent teetering on the edge between light and dark, but being more so towards the dark instead of the light. Purple is teetering on the edge, but it's more so light than it is dark. Orange is more so dark than it is light. So, but they're still in the middle, they're still the gray. And even if you look at their colors, they're dressed in gray and black, gray Jedi. That's what I think we're dealing with here. I think Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, or however you pronounce it, is a gray Jedi as well. I think they're gray Jedi. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my theory on this. Tell me what you guys think about this down in the comments section down below. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm close? Do you have your own theory about these characters? That being said, of course, you guys know the drill. Subscribe, like, click the bell, all that good stuff. Check out my other social media down below. And, of course, I have a Patreon, a Cash App, a Venmo, and a PayPal if you guys would like to support me financially so I can do this full time. If you decide to become a patron on Patreon for only $3 a month, you get early access to videos there. I have some new videos that I uploaded on Patreon yesterday. They're going to be coming out on the channel this week. But They're available right now on Patreon, so go ahead and become a patron, guys. Would really appreciate the support. All right, that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is JeskerJames with a Z, and I am signing off.